After hearing for over a decade that Orlando and Florida home prices were going to crash, prices are finally falling in Central Florida. We saw a recent article published by Home Economics, which showed that values were decreasing year over year, and not just Orlando and Central Florida, a lot of other markets, including some others in Florida. And you can see here for 2025, these gray areas represent decreases in price. And this is Orlando's market right here, falling some. You can see some other markets fell in Florida, like Tampa. Another market, Dallas, that fell pretty heavily. Austin falling heavily. San Antonio. But in spite of that, it was a little bit unusual because as a real estate broker, we're not really seeing any softening of listing prices. Buyers don't feel like they have a great advantage in our market. They're still competing for homes. So it got me thinking, well, is this really true? And when you see here that the source of the data is the Zillow Home Price Index, I immediately get skeptical because Zillow makes their money from tricking consumers into going on their website and getting connected with their lenders who are involved in a class action lawsuit right now for overcharging borrowers, and with their real estate agents who are overcharging consumers, giving half the consumer's money back to Zillow in exchange for connecting them with a lead. And then you wind up having people going out shopping for homes with someone who's got 1 year experience, but they're charging you like they've got 30 years experience. So Zillow will do anything to drive traffic to their website, including manipulate housing data. But I wanted to make sure that's what was going on. And what I saw here is a 4.2% 1 year reduction in prices, as Zillow claims. And when I went in and looked at the data year over year, this is Orlando, 32804 zip code. And I looked at the same period year over year. December 1st to January 31st, from 24 to 25, and then from 25 to 26. And in fact, I saw what Zillow was saying was not true. An $853,000 sale price this year compared to an $806,000 sale price for the same area last year. Going out to some of the zip codes to see, well, maybe that's just a fluke, you can see a $400,000 sale price last year compared with a $447,000 sale price this year. And then when I look at Orlando as a whole, expecting to see the same thing, 522,000 last year, probably going to be higher, 550 this year. It actually was lower, 508,186. So Orlando underperforming some of the suburbs to the community, including areas outside of Central Florida. If you go over to the Space Coast and look at Melbourne, year over year, they're seeing about a 0.5% price gain. And this is what the summary of the data looks like. So you can see the College Park zip code plus 5.82%. Maitland, Oviedo, and Winter Springs, these are suburb cities, seeing an 11% gain. City of Melbourne seeing a 0.5% gain. City of Orlando seeing a 2.7% gain. And the leadership of the city of Orlando has been under a lot of scrutiny lately because they've been in office, a lot of them for 20 plus years. Buddy Dyer's been the mayor since 2003. Commissioner Ortiz has been in office since 2007. Patty Sheehan since 2000. The commissioner, District 3 commissioner, just retired after being in office 20 years. But it's important to note here that his district is outperforming by 5.82%. But nonetheless, the Orlando leadership that's been in the office for 20 years is residing over a city that's seeing home values decline as residents flock to suburbs despite it being less convenient to work, despite it being longer commute times, despite there being fewer housing options. Leadership is driving people outside of the city limits of Orlando, causing home price increases in the suburbs and surrounding areas, and only selective sale price increases in certain zip codes within the city. Now, it's important to note this 2.69% decline still represents an overstatement by Zillow of 43%. They will do anything to fearmonger, to get a click, and to get you to register on their website. So that includes manipulating their home price index to show bigger swings and create more interesting headlines. But the reality is, if you look at the summary of the data, if you're a seller in this market, if you're a home buyer in this market, don't be misled by these headlines. You need to understand the reality, which is and that 3 out of 4 markets, you're still seeing pretty steady price gains. And then within some larger geographic areas like the city limits of Orlando, you're seeing a lot of pockets which are dragging down by big degrees. You're seeing, some zip codes in some neighborhoods which are going to fall 7, 8, 9, 10%. That's going to offset those other areas that are rising more mildly by 2, 3, 4, or 5%. But as a whole, the market in Florida is still very, very strong. We're going to see more price gains this year. At least everything points to that. We're going to see lower interest rates. And we just came off 2 years of extremely suppressed buyer demand and resale activity. So expect to see these price gains continue as we move forward. And just remember that when you're browsing for real estate news, whether it's on major national news sites or whether it's on national portals like Redfin or Realtor.com, there's always an agenda. The data is almost always wrong. So be sure you're reaching out to a local real estate broker to get better information and accurate figures about what's really happening in your local market.